Okay, time is 7 p.m. and I will call the May 28th meeting of the Millcreek Board of Supervisors to order. And we have a special treat here. We have Scout Troop 37 from St. James Church, which is going to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We've got quite a group here, so please come forward. And if you'd all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. This way, to the right there, with flags there. Look to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
I don't think we've ever had a group that size lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. As a reminder, these meetings are video and audio taped. For those who don't know, the camera is right next to Cheryl. It's on that stand, and it has a full direction on that for the most of the meeting room here. The meetings are, as I said, video and audio taped. They will be available on channel 1024 of Spectrum Cable, and also on the YouTube channel once everything has been edited and approved and everything. They are closed caption available if you desire that service for anybody who's hearing impaired or hearing difficulties. Moving on to item number 3, public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Any comments from the public on agenda items other than rezoning or development applications? Being none, we'll move on. Item number 4, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Any questions, comments, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, number 5, approval of the bills. Any questions on the bill batch that we have there? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 6, bids and quotation. Let's see here, from the Public Works Department, sewer and streets for catch basins and drainage pipe. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, actually, I'll handle
Matt
that.
Waldinger.
Ann Sokol, Township Engineer, worked with the Erie Area Council of Governments on a joint bid for catch basins, frames, and grates. Bids were opened on May 7th, 2019, and there was only one qualified bidder, Waterford Precast. So Ann Sokol recommends awarding the vendor contract for catch basins, risers, and frames and grates to Waterford Precast for the prices listed on the following attached sheets.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Waldinger, so they're just locking in the price for the duration of the season. We kind of buy them as needed, or is this?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're under no obligation to buy a certain number. Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve the award to Green Distributors.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
That was Waterford.
Waterford, yeah.
Precast for the frames and grates.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay, yeah, with 2 separate ones here.
Oh, my apologies.
No problem.
That'd be for Waterford Precast.
Yeah, and that's for the catch basins and risers, right? Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, the next one is for the drainage pipe.
Yes, in a similar fashion, the Council of Governments also got bids on drainage pipe. Those bids were also opened on May 7th, 2019. There were 2 bidders, both supplying the required ADS pipe. And the prices were identical for both bidders. The first bidder was Green Distributor, located in Summit Township, and the other bidder is Shamung Supply, which is located in Elmira, New York. It's my department's recommendation that we award the contract to Green Distributors for the prices listed on the attached sheets due to its closer proximity to the township for pickup and delivery.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to award the contract to Green Distributors.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes on that. Okay, next item under that, Millcreek Township Milling and Paving Project for the 2019 bid results. Mr. Snyder.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
Oh, okay.
I received a note from Diane Lyons, our Human Resources Manager. We have been, as you guys are aware, and you and Mr. Bach led the discussions, we've been in negotiations with our union for the paving out of our, or the contracting out of our paving work that we're about to vote on. We do need to vote on that MOU. I believe it would probably be wise for us to vote on the MOU before we award the bids, for the sake of
Okay.
keeping good standing with our union. We all received the MOU regarding the union's conditions for us paving out that work. We have the signed edition, but we do need to actually vote on it publicly
Yeah.
to approve the MOU. I suggest we do it now before we award the bids.
Right. I guess not to complicate it there, but I think this was for the bid results, and I think we were going to possibly look at awarding the contract. It doesn't matter, we're going to, okay, I'll go with you on this one, John. I think that's probably the right track.
We can wait till communications. I asked them if we took action. We want to take action on
But
our...
no, I think we ought to take action on that right now. That's probably a good thing. Okay.
I apologize.
No,
Getting
no
late
problem
today.
there. No, we'll be okay with this. John, why don't you explain the agreement there that...
Sure.
And there's some good things about this here for everybody.
Absolutely.
If you're a resident of Millcreek, you're going to love it.
So I guess a little backstory for the folks in the audience. As you know, Millcreek operates their own asphalt plant, and our laborers do a large majority, and in some cases all, of the repaving work, milling and repaving work in Millcreek Township. The board's been looking at this issue for the past few years, looking at kind of some cost-effective ways to really spread our dollars a little further. And what we determined was if we actually contracted out all of our milling and repaving work, so major roadway work, it would free up our internal forces to keep up on maintenance. So I think what folks realize is once we start paving season, potholes stop getting patched, catch basins stop getting fixed, ditches stop getting cleaned out because all of our forces are doing roadway paving. So we determined was contracting out that work would actually free up our forces to keep up on maintenance over the summer, which we felt was a much more cost-effective approach. It did require us to enter negotiations with our labor unions. This is traditionally union work, and we're very happy that our union was willing to work with us to come up with some really common sense compromises to allow us to contract out this work. So we really do appreciate the work of our ASME union to work with Mr. Bach and Mr. Brewer in these negotiations. So approving this will allow us to contract out the paving work without any threat of grievances or work stoppages. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of work there that our HR department and our labor solicitor, and of course the team that negotiated that.
And Mr. Snyder, of
and
course.
Yes, the entire team that negotiated, and the willingness of the ASME local to understand where we were at. And I think I speak on behalf of the board that we appreciate that and understanding that this is a much better way to take care of the township and get it done in a timely manner. So anyway, with that said,
Well, gentlemen, I'll put forth the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Millcreek Township and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 3530, regarding outsourcing of paving operations.
okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Thanks. Okay, now that we've got that part taken care of, we'll go. I'm sorry.
Sorry, gentlemen, we rushed it a little quickly here. It was not an agenda item, we should take public
I
comments.
apologize. I assume they're all kind of the same issue, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I stand corrected on that there. Is there any public comment on this? We hope it's all positive if there is. Okay. Being none, let the record reflect there is no public comment on that. Okay. Now we'll move on to the bids that we received. Mr. Snyder.
Good evening, gentlemen. We did something a little different this year with our paving contracts. We broke them down into two contracts instead of one big one. They were denoted as East Contract and West Contract. We had competitive bids. We opened them last week. We went over the numbers. And for the West Contract, we received 3 bids. Joseph McCormick Construction came in at $981,019.56. Mayer Brothers Construction came in at $827,264.30. And Lindy Paving came in at $824,522.66. It would be my recommendation that we let the contract for the west paving to Lindy Paving Company for
Okay.
the set amount.
Okay. Any questions or comments? This is not an agenda item as far as awarding that. This is just the bid results if you look at our agenda. So we will be required to take some public comment on this. Am I correct on that, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, it indicates bid results.
Bid results, because it's not on, yeah. Okay. Are there any comments from the public before we take action on this? Okay, let the record reflect there are no public comments, and this is for the west side project. Okay, I call for a motion to award that contract to Lindy Paving at $824,522.66.
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I will second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, and I also vote yes. Okay, Gary.
On the east side contract, we received 3 bids from the same 3 companies. The first one was from Joseph McCormick Construction for $960,489.02. The second was from Lindy Paving for $849,152.88. The third was from Mayer Brothers Construction for $766,844.50. After going over these same contracts, I would recommend that we award the contract for the east side pavement to Mayer Brothers Construction.
Okay. And once again, this is not an agenda item, calling for any public comment on this. Okay. Being none, let the record reflect there's no comment for the east side paving project. With that said, I call for a motion to approve. Do I hear a motion?
Okay.
I'll make that motion, John.
Okay, Mr. Bach. Mr. Morgan? I'm sorry.
I'll second the motion to award to Mayer Brothers Construction for $766,844.50.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. I do have a question for you, Gary. As far as what we budgeted, how do we do as far as budgeting? Do you know, or Mark Jaheski, do you have?
Yeah,
Are we-
those
are we-
total just under 1.6 million.
Okay,
Our liquid fuels fund that we received was almost 1.8 million.
Okay.
And there were $300,000 left over, so there's about $500,000 still available right now.
okay, so we could actually start a second set of roads, or a third set of roads, I'm sorry, to get done. I would like to make a note for the record here. Be Jonathan Drive over in the Bell Valley area. That was a road that I understand was started to be constructed 15 years ago. Never finished, just had a base coat on it. We need to get that fixed, so I just want that noted for the record. So when we start that third list of roads, that should be number 1 on that list if we can do that, so. Okay, moving on. Item number 7. Item number 7, we have 2 actions on here, and I do want to explain for the record here that I will be recusing myself from any discussion on this due to a campaign contribution by the owner of the property, Mr. Tim Birkmeyer. Tim and I go back about 40 years or so. We've been friends, worked together in the electrical trade together, and so he made a donation to my campaign that I believe that I must recuse myself from any discussion. So this would be for Mr. Birkmeyer's subdivision, and then also the Millcreek Apartment Land Development Plan. With that stated, I'm going to refer everything over to co-chairman, or vice chairman, Mr. Jim Bach.
Thank you,
Here's
Jim.
If I could just real quick note that Chairman Grow did submit a written memorandum to the Secretary identifying the potential conflict
to
as
mention that.
required by the rules. That would, if there were a tie in the vote, it would at least, under the conflict rules, enable him to break the tie, but only in that circumstance. Okay.
Okay, this is a land development plan, Timothy M. Burkmeyer and Tammy Lynn Burkmeyer, small subdivision plan to show creation of Lot B with 22.181 acres and having residual lots of 1.127 acres, 4.322 acres, 4.16 acres, and 8.57 acres. Located along the southeast line of Edinburgh Road and southwest of Interchange Road and Track 347. Index numbers 738-020, 738-040, 738-050, and 738-052. Mr. Walding.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of May 7th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision. I would like to note that following the Planning Commission meeting, the developer did submit a new plan with a minor modification out at the roadway they had originally proposed, or I'm sorry, out at Edinburgh Road. They had originally proposed a 10-foot wide strip. They increased that strip just at the right-of-way to 20 feet to accommodate the new sign ordinance that is being proposed so that they could have room for their sign and have it be legal and not need a variance. That added approximately 500 square feet to a 22-acre parcel. So we felt that was a minor change and is presented before you right now.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this subdivision plan? If you could sign in there, sir. Or there's one's up there? Okay, my bad.
No, actually, that would be better, Mike.
Oh, he's not biting. If you could state your name for the record, sir.
Mike Sanford, 4721 Atlantic Avenue. I'm the surveyor that prepared the plan for the project, and it's really as you described. It's a minor one-lot subdivision. It's dedicating no roadways. So essentially, there's 4 tax lots out there now. We're taking pieces and parts from 4 different lots to create one new lot. So there's one new lot with frontage and 4 residual parcels.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Waldinger, were there any concerns expressed at the Planning Commission meeting?
No, no one appeared in regards to this subdivision.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Sand.
you.
Is there anyone else here to speak on this subdivision plan? For or against? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve this subdivision plan?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the subdivision plan.
Okay, I'll second that. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Cheryl, I'd ask the record just to reflect that Mr. Grow had abstained.
Okay, so we'll move down to the 4th item, which is in connection with this one. Millcreek Apartments Land Development Plan. A land development plan to show the construction of 5 4-story multifamily dwellings, each with 40 units, 200 units total, and a 2-story clubhouse with associated parking and stormwater management facilities, located along the southeast line of Edinburgh Road and southwest of Interchange Road in Track 347. Index numbers 738-020, 738-040, 738-050, and 738-052. I will turn this over to Matthew Waldinger.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of May 7th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan with the following 2 requirements. A portion of the driveway for the new apartments is proposed to cross over an adjoining parcel, so the township would have to have a copy of that easement agreement prior to recording of the plan. And number 2, sidewalks must be shown on the land development plan. The developer has indicated that he may seek a sidewalk deferral, but the sidewalks still need to be shown and recorded as part of the plan.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Sanford, would you like to speak on this as well?
Mike Sanford again. I have a few talking points just to go through to bring you up to speed with the project. The property is zoned R4, and I work with a developer, RAS Development, to come up with a plan for use of this 22-acre or so parcel. As you described on the lead-in, it is for apartment buildings, a clubhouse. We do have some detached garages, some surface parking, some attached garages, and also a pool. But in total, there's 200 apartments proposed on the project. The development will be accessed from Edinburgh Road from a privately maintained roadway or driveway into the property. And as Mr. Waldinger described, there is an access easement that provides us access to Edinburgh Road, and we will supply a copy of that between the two parties to the township. A few months ago, the developer did apply to the zoning hearing board for a variance. Prior to that meeting, he mailed letters to all the adjoining property owners, set up an informational meeting at, I believe it was the public library, date and time, and no one came to that meeting. But he did offer it, he did come, and just no one came to get any information. So subsequent to that informational meeting with the residents, he did go to zoning hearing board and was granted his variance. Within the property, it does have a lot of topography to it. There is some small drainage ways and water courses in there. There's a few pockets of wetlands as well. Those have been delineated. We had a pre-application meeting on site with DEP, Army Corps, and the Conservation District. We walked the property and talked about the development and impact any of those resources. There are some wetlands that will be impacted by development. It's just under an acre of impact, and those will be permitted and mitigated off-site to another property. The developer is setting aside a fairly large size open space on the eastern side of the project, so abutting the neighbors to the east, if you will. There's, again, a drainage way, it's wooded, but that will actually remain as is, undisturbed, no grading in that area. And that area that's being set aside as open space on the east side will remain available for recreation of the residents, within the development, just in a natural setting. So it's part of the requirement of the land development is to provide open space, and that's one measure or one way we've done that, is letting them recreate in the open space. The parking lots within the development will be landscaped in accordance with the township specifications for end caps, planting islands, and trees within the surface parking lot. We do have a dumpster corral that is shown on the plan, and we've kept it away from any neighboring property as well. Utilities, sanitary sewer and water will be extended into the project for service. The buildings will be sprinklered, the apartment and clubhouse, and the developer is looking into sprinklering the detached garages as well. It's something he's considering right now. We did do a sewage planning module, prepared that, got it signed by all the appropriate agencies and sent it to DEP Meadville, and that's been approved. We also had a pre-application meeting on site with PennDOT, right there along Edinburgh Road. This private driveway I mentioned earlier will be lined up opposite Renderley, and that's what PennDOT felt was a good location. So we did have a meeting there on site. Township came as well. My office measured the available site distance. We prepared a PennDOT application, sent it to PennDOT, and we've resolved all their technical comments. So it would be a driveway, private driveway opposite Renderley. We have a surface stormwater pond, designed for your ordinance, and it's going to be a wet stormwater pond on site, privately maintained, that will address the runoff rate, volume, and quality. The developer is, as Mr. Waldinger mentioned, we are requesting sidewalk deferral for the 20-foot of sidewalk along Edinburgh Road in this 20-foot strip that we mentioned. I will show it on the LDP, and we would request deferral of that. We did, as Mr. Waldinger described, we increased the strip from 10 feet to 20 to contemplate the new signage ordinance that the board hasn't passed yet, because you have 7-foot side yards contemplated being required. So that sign would not have fit in the 10-foot strip, so we widened it to 20 so we could have a sign with the appropriate setbacks. We're not aware of any variances or modifications that this board needs to grant with the plan. And the plan was reviewed by Erie County, signed off, and also your planning commission recommended approval. And we're just here tonight to answer any questions and look forward to an approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sanford?
Mr. Waldinger, the sidewalk deferral, that's actually a form that has to be submitted. Has that been submitted
Yes.
formally?
No, it has not been submitted. That would be done separately. But whether the deferral is granted or not, it still has to be shown on the plan, because in the future, if it was ever required to be put in, it would be put in that location.
Well, I guess my question is it the intention for this board to grant the sidewalk deferral this evening?
No.
Or wait until that document's actually been presented
We
subsequent
would
to
wait
this?
until it's formally requested. They just indicated that they plan to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this matter before us? Okay, hearing none.
One more question, Mr. Waldinger. Just to clarify, to make the proper motion, Matt, the recommendation would be to recommend to approve with the conditions of, conditioned upon sidewalks being delineated on the plan
Correct.
and securing an access
A
easement.
copy of the access agreement be provided to the township.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the land development plan for Millcreek Apartments based with those conditions?
I
that
would
you
make a
mentioned?
motion to approve with those conditions, yes.
Okay, I will second that. Mr. Morgan, your vote?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. I will now turn the microphone back over to Chairman John Grow.
I'm back. Yeah, I was
Thank you.
dozing off back there.
Oh, I tried to make it entertaining for you.
Thank you. Did a good job. Thank you.
Cheryl, if you could reflect the abstention.
Yeah, I did abstain from that one there, thanks. Okay. Next item on that, under number 7, is a land development plan for Chick-fil-A. The land development plan to show the construction of a 5,031 square foot food, eating, and drinking establishment with associated parking and stormwater management facilities located along the South Line and West 12th Street and west of Pittsburgh Avenue and Tract 14. Millcreek index number is 258-003. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of May 7th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan.
Okay. No comments, questions, or anything? Okay. Do we have the applicant here to speak on that?
Good evening. I'll sign it.
If you- Yeah.
My name is Justin Thornton. I'm the civil engineer for Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Basically, you gave a great summary of what we're looking to do. And for layman's terms, for the location, for anyone who's not familiar, that's within the Yorktown Shopping Center. It's the existing Eaton Park that's since been closed down. We're looking to tear down that building and construct a Chick-fil-A. We'd have 2 drive-through lanes associated with it, the parking that we need, the stormwater improvements. Primarily here, I'm here to answer any questions you might have. But just for a little bit of history, we did go in front of the zoning hearing board as well for a handful of variances. Based on their request, we did tweak the plan that got rid of, I believe it was 2 of the variances, and the remaining ones were approved. So the plan as you see it today has all the required variances approved. So.
Okay. Okay, Matt Waldinger, just for the record, the variances that were granted, can you explain what those were?
Yes, they related to the parking spaces, not the number. They have the required number of parking spaces. It related to the size. The township requires a parking space that is 9 feet wide by 19 feet long. They requested relief from 1 foot of that, so their parking spaces will be 9 feet wide by 18 feet long.
Okay.
That was one. And then in conjunction with that, we require a 25-foot drive aisle, so between those 2 ends of a parking line, 25 feet. They requested a foot there as well, so they were granted a 24-foot drive aisle.
Okay.
So the 2 variances were from 19 to 18 feet on the parking space width, and from 25 to 24 feet on the drive aisle.
Okay, I know this might be a bit premature. When it comes to the zoning ordinance, as we're doing an update, this is something that's being considered for the zoning ordinance to reflect the smaller, shorter cars that are
Yeah, we
now
definitely will be
being.
looking at required numbers of spaces, if that's appropriate, as well as sizes
Right.
of spaces.
Okay, I just wanted to know that. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board here? Okay, okay. Any questions or comments from the audience here? Anybody to support or anybody that might be against this? Okay. Nobody to speak there. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Chick-fil-A land development plan.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Our next is the Erie International Airport, Tom Ridge Field, a land development plan. A land development plan to show the construction of a 13,590 square foot snow removal equipment building with associated parking reconfiguration and a canopy located along the south line of West 12th Street and east of Asbury Road and Track 280. Parcel index is 147-004. Anybody here to speak on this matter? Mr. Martin?
Jim.
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Waldinger first.
That's okay.
Okay, sorry.
Real quick, at the regular meeting of May 7th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Martin, now you, okay, yeah, they could go back and forth there a few times, sorry about that. Okay,
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Derek Martin, Executive Director of Erie Airport Authority. This is a facility that's basically a garage. It's going to house the equipment, the snow removal equipment. We have multifunctional pieces of equipment that are about $800,000. We want to try to maximize the useful life by having those indoors when they're not out on the airfield plowing snow.
okay.
Mr. Waldinger, any concern expressed to the Planning Commission regarding this development?
There was a couple that lives nearby on Grant Avenue that came in to question the access of construction vehicles. They were worried about them traveling in front of their home. The gentleman that represented the airport at the Planning Commission assured them that they would be entering and exiting at the light now and would not be going past their homes, and they were satisfied with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Waldinger, just to clarify, does the airport authority actually have to go through our development processes? Or are they exempt?
Yeah, no, they would have to go through.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I just appreciate you working with us on it.
Thank you for your support.
Okay. Questions, comments, anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, and just a quick comment, it's really impressive to see that snow blower when they're working. If you've ever seen that, you know, it is just so neat to see how that snow is being blown out there, so. I know that's what the width of the runway, or half the runway is what that, the
It goes
snow
about
equipment?
22 feet.
22 feet,
But you
okay.
can throw it about
Half a mile. It's impressive, so, anyway, there's enough of that said for me, so, anyway. Any questions or comments, from the audience here, in support or against? Being none, okay, call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Erie International Airport Land Development Plan.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I will second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
thank you, Derek, thanks. Okay. Item number 8, new and amended ordinances under review. We have a signed ordinance amendment, still under development.
Yes, I finalized the formatting of it today and sent it off to Mr. Waldinger and Mr. Puzz for their final review. It'll, once they're okay with it, it'll go out to the county for their review, and then it'll come before the board. I think the county has 30 days to review it. It'll come to the board shortly after that. And then with respect to the zoning ordinance amendments, I think a number of those are going out for publication. They should be ready, I think, for the next meeting. And then the debt ordinance, hopefully we'll have that available for our next meeting here.
Okay. Okay, then. Item number 9, Resolution 2019 R27, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20, and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. This is submitted from Chris Wilson, who is our IT director. Let's see here, the subject was video deletions. He's seeking approval for deletion of videos from the MPD dashcam server. And I just went right over the date of when that was. Excuse me. Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't. The dates that he's looking for would be, where are we at here? God, I'm jumping, okay, here we go. Between May 29th and June 11th of this year. Those are the ones when they become time to delete them. He's looking for authorization there in this resolution. Questions or comments from the board? If none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2019-R27.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, item number 10, a road use agreement. Matt Waldinger, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my department was contacted by State Line Lumber from Albion, Pennsylvania. They were looking to do work for a township resident at 5616 Gary's Road. They're looking to log a portion of their property. So the State Line contacted us about use of Gary's Road to haul logs from 5616 north to Zimmerly Road. They would be doing that from when the contract was approved through September of 2019, and they approximate it will be about 50 truckloads of logs that will be taken out over that time. After discussions with the solicitor, it was discovered that they had signed an older version of our road use agreement. So we have prepared an updated version with the proper language. And so I would ask that you approve this contract contingent on the State Line Lumber Company signing the updated version of the contract.
Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Shaw, this is a good thing for us.
Yeah, this was a form that the board has previously used and approved with other situations similar to this.
Okay.
I had noticed when I was looking through the form that it didn't appear to be the form that we had used in the past, and I checked it out with Mr. Waldinger and realized that they had accidentally grabbed an old form off the system. So I'm just going to update and hopefully get their agreement to this new form, and also verified that the location where they're going to be hauling is over an area of the road that's still in pretty good condition. So.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the State Line Lumber road use agreement.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next item is item number 11, the Kronos agreement, and that's for a timekeeping system. Mr. Zahaski, do you have that, or is that going to Mark Shaw?
It's probably both of us.
Oh, both of you? Okay.
Yeah, this is the agreement to actually purchase the equipment and software that was approved, I believe, back in April. The standard contract had certain language that needed to be improved, and so Mr. Shaw, Attorney Shaw, proposed an addendum to their standard contract that took care of certain concerns as it related to the township. And so now this is the formalization of the purchase of the timekeeping and payroll service from Kronos.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, anything to add to that?
Sure. Simply, the provisions were that were added were most of them were just simply clarifications of their existing agreement, as well as adding some of our standard provisions relating to right to know and choice of law and what law applies and so forth. And they agreed to the suggestions that we made, so we're satisfied with the agreement subject to the addendum.
Okay. Questions among the board members? Any questions, comments?
No, I just want to say thanks to Mark and his team for, we went through this when we actually approved the selection. It's taken a while to get the contract underway, but this is a good thing to update our payroll and timekeeping system. So
Yeah.
thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
A lot of work on that, yeah.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the Kronos agreement.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 12 is an authorization to open a new sinking fund account. Mr. Jahaski.
Yes, because we now have taken on debt, first off, the Erie County Redevelopment Authority loan, and we've got a couple of other pieces of equipment that we're going to use bank financing for. We need a fund, an account, an actual cash account, in order to properly account for the loan payments. And so these are traditionally called a sinking fund. Not as a ship sinking, it's just,
okay.
it's actually the
Got me
balance of the
worried.
debt sinking. So I'm assuming that's where that attribution came from. I'm proposing that we use our lead bank, Erie Bank, for this purpose. The only requirement is that they have a $5,000 minimum in order to maintain it as interest-bearing. And just putting the loan payments in there for a year will easily maintain it at that level.
Okay, questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I make a motion to approve the authorization to open a new sinking fund to the treasurer with Erie Bank.
Do I hear a second on that?
I will second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 13, stormwater maintenance agreement requests. I'll do the first one there, Glenwood Pet Hospital.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Glenwood Pet Hospital submitted a stormwater maintenance agreement as well as a stormwater management plan to the township. The plan was reviewed by Greenman Peterson Incorporated, our contracted third-party reviewing agency, and that was approved. And Glenwood Pet Hospital also submitted the stormwater maintenance agreement on the proper format of the township agreements, signed and notarized. So I would ask that the board approve not only the agreement with Glenwood Pet Hospital, but also the plan itself.
The plan itself, okay. Questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater maintenance agreement and plan of Glenwood Pet Resort.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, Westminster Development.
Very similarly, Westminster Development submitted the same stormwater management plan to us that we sent to Greenman Peterson for their review. Greenman Peterson has approved that plan. Westminster Development has also submitted to us a stormwater maintenance agreement on the proper township forms. It is signed and notarized. So I ask that the board also approve the stormwater maintenance or the stormwater management plan and maintenance agreement for Westminster Development.
Okay. Okay, questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement and the plan for Westminster Development.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Item number 14, sidewalk deferral agreement request, 4214 McKee Road. Jeffrey Parker is a developer. Matt?
Yes, Mr. Parker is looking to construct a home at 4214 McKee Road. Currently, there are no sidewalks anywhere in the area. His frontage on McKee is 66 feet. He's asking for a deferral of the requirement to construct that sidewalk at this time. I'd like to remind the board that a deferral is just that. It doesn't relieve them of the requirement to build it. It just defers it to a time in the future when it would be more appropriate.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral agreement for 4212 McKee Road.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Communications. Treasurer, Mark Chaskey, anything?
I have nothing further, no.
Okay. John Morgan.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few, well, first one's actually from Judy Zelina.
Yeah.
This was a request to hire a part-time receptionist. As you gentlemen know, we had an unfortunate injury to our full-time receptionist who will be out of work for a while. Ms. Zelina is requesting us to hire a second part-timer. Recommend hiring Zareen Khan for the temporary part-time receptionist position. Due to the present need of staffing the switchboard, she would like the start date to be retroactive to May 23rd. With the hiring to be approved this evening. No, there is not a starting rate listed. I did speak with Diane Lyons. The starting rate for a seasonal position would be $8 an hour.
$8, yes, yeah. And I spoke with her early this morning about that, yeah.
So I would make a motion to approve the hiring of Zareen Khan to the part-time position at a rate of $8 an hour, retroactive to May 23rd.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay.
Next is actually from Ashley Marsteller, Parks and Recreation. The list of employees are being requested for hire and approval to cover summer programming for the Recreation Department. Mr. Gray, do you want to discuss those?
Yeah, we've got, let's see here. This is the seasonal help for MIHS pool. I think it looks like there's about 11, 12 instructors and guards that are there. Their rates are listed. They vary between $13 an hour down to $7.95 per hour. In Chestnut Hill Pool, the same thing. We've got guards and supervisors for that. Same thing for the Bell Valley Pool. And then water safety instructor and lifeguard substitutes. We have a list of those. Pool concession stand, tennis people over there, youth dance, day camp, gymnastics, adult fitness, adult leisure, barn supervisor for over at the Asbury Barn. As you can see, we got quite a bit going on here in our office here at the Township Building and also at the Golf and Learning Center down on Harper Drive. So those are the seasonal help, and they generally be done at the end of August, right before school starts, maybe right around the time school starts. So with that, I'll put that in a form. You didn't make a motion, did you, John?
I did not, sir.
Okay. I'll put that in the form of a motion, that list of employees that are attached with this request. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
Mr. Groves, another item from Ms. Lyons. This is regarding a seasonal employment wage update.
That's right.
Ms. Lyons noted that the majority of the board took action at our last meeting to increase the rate for seasonal maintenance employees. That rate increase only went into effect at that meeting for Parks and Recreation seasonal maintenance employees. Ms. Lyons is requesting that the board broaden that rate change to include all seasonal maintenance employees. The affected employees would be Ian Steff, Kevin Hilling, Nicholas Langford, and Jacob Shamara. The recommendation would be for those individuals working for their first season to have their pay increased to $8 an hour, second season $9 an hour, and third season $10 an hour.
Right. Just for the record, those employees that are listed there, they work in building maintenance and traffic departments as maintenance there. They're, Ian Steff, Kevin Hilling is in the engineering department. He's an assistant with the survey crew. Anyway, just for the record there. Anyway, is that a form of a motion there for that adjustment?
I did not make the motion, no.
Okay. I'll make the motion for that adjustment in pay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Moment of discussion, gentlemen.
Go ahead.
I understand Ms. Lyons' request to equalize seasonal maintenance employees' rates. I understand her position that it would be unfair, in her words, to pay individuals in one department for doing the same work more than individuals in another department. As I expressed at the previous meeting, though, I was in opposition to the original change because the majority of the board acted outside of our regular budgeting sessions at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, to make those rate changes. I think it's inappropriate to change rates outside of our budget discussions. So I will vote no to this on the principle that these discussions ought to have occurred last fall during our budget discussions and not 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Let's see here, what else do we have?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if Mr. Morgan actually voted.
I did.
He voted no, yeah.
I rambled there for
Okay, but he did
you
vote
get
no.
lost.
Okay, let's see here, we have a training request. You have anything else, John? I'm sorry, I didn't know if you had anything else that was not listed here.
I think that's it for me, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay, training request from Public Works. Gary, you want to talk about that?
Thank you. I'm seeking permission to send Mark Wells, Sean Kern, and Joe Yatzer to a one-day seminar on dealing with difficult people. The seminar will be held at the Wingate by Wyndham on Oliver Road in Erie, PA, on June 5th. The cost is $149 per person for a total cost of $447. travel would be by township vehicle, and the daily wages would be paid to these individuals. There is money in the training budget to cover this cost. I would submit that as a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I would object to this. There are no difficult people.
I have numerous questions.
My goodness.
I can volunteer to be the difficult
That-
person.
I don't understand why it would be
Why weren't the
necessary.
supervisors invited to this?
Oh, because we are the difficult people.
Okay.
That's why. Come on. You know. Anyway, seriously, Gary, that's what you want to do is send them
Yes, I
there.
would recommend
Okay. And it's probably
Just
highly
clarify,
recommended.
It's a management training session,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
definitely appropriate.
Definitely, yes. Okay. With that said, do I hear a motion on it?
I make a motion to approve
Okay. Do I hear a second?
the request.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I most definitely vote yes.
Gary, I
Okay.
notice you're not going to the seminar.
Yeah, that was my next question.
He could probably teach the class. Okay. Yeah, moving on, let's see here. We got the training request. We had executive sessions on May 17th and May 23rd to discuss some legal matters that the township's involved with. And I also wanted to mention that coming up on June 14th, Friday, June 14th, the Presque Isle Garden Club will dedicate a Blue Star Monument Memorial at the Veterans Park located at Zimmerly Road and Love Road. Veterans from all branches of military service, as well as the public, are invited to attend this service. Please keep in mind that parking is at a premium up there, due to the size of the group that could be attending. If you can carpool if you wanted to go to it, but it's going to be a very nice ceremony. The Blue Star is a way of honoring our military service people and service personnel that have served and those who are still serving. It's a nationwide movement started in 1944 by garden clubs across the United States. I understand that there will be refreshments and I think cookies or something like that there, but that'll be in the pavilion at the Veterans Park. So I'm going to announce that today, and then again on June 11th when we have our meeting that day. So if you are a veteran, feel free to come and attend that. It's going to be a very nice ceremony. And I think that's all I have. Jim.
Thank you, John. I have a request from our Police Chief, Scott Height. He's requesting authorization for the purchase of 16 cell phones and service from AT&T FirstNet. He's requesting to add 10 cellular phones to the police department inventory for the patrol vehicles. In addition, he would like to replace 6 current phones, and 2 of those would be in the dispatch center. The AT&T phones and service will allow push-to-talk communications on a prioritized network between officers in the field and with dispatch. Periodically, they have had reception issues with the police radios that they have, so this is one function of this request is to utilize those phones as a backup communication device with dispatch. These are not smartphones, these are basic cellular phones with push-to-talk capability. The cost, additional cost per month for this request is $311.90, and the funds to pay for that are coming from the sale of the 2 rifles that we approved last meeting, which totaled, I believe, $3,500. So the proceeds from the sale of those rifles will cover the cost of this for approximately a year, and then it's the chief's intent to kind of go on a year-to-year basis with evaluating whether these phones are needed further after the county upgrades with the radio system. And I will put that request in the form of a motion.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
Question, John?
We utilize Verizon primarily for our services. I'm wondering why we're utilizing a different service provider. Or does Verizon not offer the same service, and would there perhaps be a lesser charge if it was tacked on to our existing cell bill? So I don't have a problem with the principle, but I'm wondering if Chief spoke with the administrative department to see what their options there may have been.
Yeah, he didn't, I see down in number 4, He said, oh, okay, he's going to be canceling the service with Verizon and go to the AT&T. I do not know the answer to your question. That's something I'd have to check with Chief as far as, you're asking if he, basically if he shopped around and got a price?
Well, and work with the Department of Administration for, I don't know, Mark, are you aware of the discussions about cell phone bills and whether or not?
No. The only thing is, Mr. Block asked me for the spend for the police department on cellular service. But beyond that, I have no idea.
Should we hold off on this? I mean, is there an urgency to time frame, time sensitivity?
I'm not aware of any time
Okay,
sensitivity.
maybe we can get more info.
Oh, and I understand the logic behind it, but just want to make sure there's departments coordinated and make sure we're getting the best rate, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that.
So I'd like to move to table
Okay.
recommendation till next meeting.
Okay, you have a second on that, Jim?
I'll second that.
Okay. John, you vote
I'll check
yes?
with the chief on that when he returns.
Okay, the motion and second at table. John, how do you vote?
I vote to table till next meeting.
Okay. Jim, how do you vote?
I vote
To table?
to table,
And
yes.
so do I there, okay. June 11th, we'll talk over it, but get more information in between. Okay, Jim, anything else you got there?
That's all from the police.
Okay,
Nothing further here.
okay. Shane, our student ambassador from McDowell.
Yes.
Tell us what's going on.
Couple things. We have a couple standardized tests left for this year. The last SAT test will be held on June 1st, this Saturday, and the last ACT test will be held next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that on June 8th. I'd also like to congratulate the McDowell speech and debate team. They just got back from nationals yesterday. We took about 22 students, and they all did a fantastic job. 3 of them moved past the preliminary rounds. I'd also like to wish them a good luck because of the fact that they're going to another national tournament in a couple weeks in Dallas. Finally, I believe this is my last meeting that I'll be attending, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Millcreek Township Solicitor, the supervisors, and the treasurer. It's been a great opportunity, and thank you.
We're glad you've been part of this there. I think I speak on behalf of the board, and they may even have words themselves. Just out of curiosity, where are you going to be going to college or university?
Emory University in Atlanta,
Emory University. And what is the degree you're pursuing?
economics.
Economics. So, yeah, we always had good, smart students coming there from McDowell High School. I wish you and Hannah both the best in whatever your career endeavors might be.
Thank you.
So thank you. It's glad to have you as part of this board here, and to your teachers and counselors there for allowing you to be part of this too. So,
You've really been an excellent
Yeah.
representative of McDowell, so.
yes.
Yeah, best of luck.
Yes. If I ever need a fill-in, maybe you can you say it's your last meeting, but
I'm sure he'll be attending the summer meetings.
yes, I'm sure he will.
President.
Okay, anyway, congratulations on your graduation. Mr. Shaw, anything?
Nothing further out of my end.
Okay, Cheryl, anything? Matt Waldinger, anything else that you'd like to say?
Nothing further.
Okay, Gary? Okay. Citizens to be heard. Before we begin, can I make a comment or two? I understand that we have some people out here that may be wishing to speak in regards to the EMTA matter. I have been told that there may be some resolution as of late today. Does not mean we do not want to hear you, but we understand that there may be resolution to the matter. So I'm not trying to steal anyone's thunder, not to keep you from speaking or anything, but there may be some resolution. Am I correct on that, Mr. Morgan?
We've had some good discussions that.
Maybe, okay.
I believe we may be able to reach an agreement
Okay.
for some adjustment to the allocation.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Am I correct on that there from what I overheard some conversation here? Or am I
I think
speaking untrue?
you may be speaking a tad prematurely.
Premature,
but,
okay.
There
Okay,
was some positive discussions today.
okay,
we'll say at the last meeting, we did agree to sit down and speak with representatives, and
okay. So we are,
we have spoken with a very prominent advocate for EMTA, and
okay,
hope those discussions turn out to be fruitful. So.
okay, so we are in a direction then, okay. In the meantime, maybe I spoke a little too positive about that, but I'm going to be optimistic on that. But anyway, citizens to be heard. Anyone have a concern they would like to talk about. Please come forward, state your name for the record. If you would, at the podium there, sir, sign your name and then state for who you are.
Good evening. My name is Carl Berry. I'm with Community Resources for Independence. I am the new executive director for the nonprofit based here in Erie, Pennsylvania, in Millcreek Township. Mr. Morgan, Mr. Groh, and Mr. Bach, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you very much for listening. You may have stolen some of my thunder, so I'm going to go through my presentation as I can. Transportation, as you're aware, is one of the most significant barriers facing people with disabilities and the elderly, preventing many of them from fully participating in their communities. For people with disabilities and the elderly, participating in one's community has an effect on their health and their well-being. It's what's called a social determinant of health, as opposed to isolation. A lack of transportation isolates people, contributing to poorer health outcomes, depression, victimization, and other social and societal ills. I learned of the current situation with EMTA through Mr. Gerhardt, and I've been working to learn more about the current situation. I'm very, very pleased to hear that there's been a lot of work that's continuing to go on, so I may be duplicating a lot of effort, but thank you very much for listening. The current discussion regarding the township's contribution towards EMTA busing focuses on the fixed routes. A lack of funding eventually results in a lack of bus routes. That makes obvious sense. But a lack of funding for fixed bus routes also has the unintended consequence that perhaps are not so obvious. The power of the funding provided by the municipalities like the township is multiplied through federal matching grants, pulling down federal dollars in several multiples to the local funding. This stretches the township taxpayers' dollars farther, more bang for the buck. This point, I believe, is obvious and well known to the supervisors. But what might not be well known or obvious is the Americans with Disability Act paratransit transportation services for wheelchair accessible vans is directly tied to these fixed routes, meaning the lift vans that take people with disabilities curb to curb is entirely dependent on the fixed routes. So throughout the range of the fixed routes, wheelchair accessible vans are able to travel. However, less funding for those fixed routes leads to less fixed routes, shorter fixed routes, fewer fixed routes, but also results in a lower range for these paratransit vans. Likewise, the funding for the paratransit services is also tied to the funding for fixed routes. With the decreased funding for fixed routes, funding for paratransit also decreases. There are also other small programs, such as the operation that my organization provides. We provide one van. We can't do everything for all the people with disabilities throughout Millcreek, throughout Erie County. What we're asking is pretty simple and straightforward. It sounds like you beat us to the punch. We're asking that the township supervisors please continue the discussion with the EMTA to reach an agreement that everyone can live with. The ability of some of the township's most vulnerable citizens to get out into the community, to be an active part of Millcreek's community, depends on it. We would be very interested in learning more about the situation, and we are interested in collaborating with both Millcreek Township and EMTA on this important social determinant of health. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? This is under citizens to be heard. If you would, please, you can come right to the table and the microphone will be brought to you. If you would state for the record your name. Matt, would you write her name down for her, please?
Can you guys hear me? No, let's turn it, get it real close. Can you hear me? Close. Is it on?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Kathy Herzog, Kathy. Hertzog. I am a City of Erie resident since 1998. However, I do ride both the EMTA buses and the Lyft service. The gentleman that spoke before me did start to explain. One of the things that I did early on was I served as an ADA evaluator for EMTA. So I understand the laws. What the laws say is that the paratransit, which we know as the Erie County Lyft Service, needs to, is by law required to go 3/4 of a mile on either side and at the end of any bus route. And they charge double the fare of the bus route. And they provide door-to-door service at that increased fare. Now, that is going to greatly inhibit the travel for seniors that ride the bus, travel for seniors that take the Lyft, travel for individuals with disabilities that take the bus and or the Lyft. And I'd like to let you guys know that for the record, I did travel here by bus. The Route 29 bus has greatly improved my quality of life. I'm able to get to Wegmans, Walmart, Haas's Restaurant, which is one of my favorite restaurants, at grocery stores, shopping. Also recently, my fiance had open heart surgery. I was able to take the bus service from my home. I went down to Liberty Street, got on the bus at 19th and Liberty, and traveled the Route 4 bus up to Zook Road to the Walnut Creek Nursing Home. At the Walnut Creek Nursing Home, I realized that many of the employees that worked there were also riding the bus with me. I don't think that you guys fully understand the impact of cutting back the bus service. Also, as you know, Voices for Independence has moved out here into Millcreek. And by federal law, we are required to be along a bus route, as is Community Resources for Independence. We are both federally funded centers for independent living and required by law to have transportation access to both of our entities, federally required. And that was part of the reasons why we moved where we did, because it met those federal requirements at the time. Taking away our bus service or reducing our bus service is really going to have a huge negative impact on Millcreek in regard to shoppers, employees trying to get back and forth to work, the quality of life for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that work at Walmart, work at Lowe's, work, all the way out this way. I know you guys have added a Fairview bus for people that go way out that way. That's probably paid for by Fairview, but it travels
not.
through.
Just so you know, Fairview doesn't contribute anything to EMTA.
Pardon me?
Fairview makes no contribution to EMTA.
Oh, okay. But I know that, they travel now a greater distance. The bus is awesome, okay? When I first came to Erie County in 1984 to go to college, the very first weekend that I was at college, I got on a bus and I wrote independently from the college to Millcreek Mall. The first time in my life that I could do that. Right now, I travel with my attendant because sometimes the places where I get on and off the bus is a little hairy and scary where there's no sidewalks, so it's a little steeper to get on and off. But that independence, that freedom for me to be able to pick up and go, I did not have in Reading, Pennsylvania. I couldn't get to the mall. I couldn't get out of my house. You guys up here are so far ahead. with everything. It's amazing. That's why so many of us that go to Edinburgh end up moving to Erie County, because Erie County is the only county that we can actually get around in. And it's because of municipalities like yourselves and Edinburgh and, you know, the surrounding communities that contribute to the public bus system that we can get around. And it really is, I couldn't get around without it. I mean, I do have a vehicle, but my fiance's been sick. He can't drive. I've had to rely on friends. Not all my attendants have driver's licenses, but I can get funding for the bus. I can get funding in my transportation budget, or, you know, I'll buy the 20 ride bus fares or whatever. I understand there's reduced fares as well, but I usually buy the 20 ride pass because that way I don't have to worry about what time of day it is. And I don't mind paying that a couple little extra pennies because the bus service is so valuable to me and my attendants that we can get around. And I have pictures, and if I had your cell phones, or if you have Facebook, you can see it. I put stuff up, a whole little Facebook little blurb about trying to get to this meeting, because it's so much freedom and so much independence that I can't stand the thought of losing, especially out here. You know, because I wouldn't have been able to get to the nursing home. I wouldn't be able to get to the mall. From the mall, I wouldn't be able to get to other places, because those are transfer points. You know, I'm hesitant to even move because I'm on so many bus lines right now. And I'll tell you, when it's wintertime, I take the lift if I need to. When it's summertime, I take the bus because it costs EMTA a lot of money to send that paratransit vehicle. It's like $30, $40 a ride for an ordinary passenger to get on that bus. I'm only paying $3.30, but EMTA has to pay that balance. And what you guys may or may not know is that when you contribute your community contributions, that allows EMTA to pull down federal dollars that far exceed what contributions you're making.
Right.
So that's what's helping them offset. And that's what helps them to not have to shrink their service area because the paratransit service is so expensive. And you just, I mean,
Right.
I can't express to you the importance of continuing that funding. I wish I could get to every community and tell them my story, but this funding out here is extremely personal to me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have a moment. I'd like to clarify a few points. And again, folks, we certainly want to hear your stories and your concerns, but I want to point out a few things. Not every municipality actually does contribute to EMTA. There was a reference to Fairview and Edinburgh. Those two municipalities do not make any contributions to EMTA. I also want to stress that the board is aware of the matching funds. The $20,000 that was contributed equates to about $200,000 total, which is less than 1% of EMTA's operating budget. And as I stated at our last meeting, I think what's concerning to me is the misinformation that EMTA is providing, that less than 1% reduction would somehow result in elimination of entire routes, which is just not true. It's just not. And as far as lift service goes, lift service is, as the speakers have stated, is tied to the location of major routes and the duration of those routes. So even if EMTA were to amend frequency on those routes, the service would still exist. This is not a dire situation that's going to result in no service to Millcreek Township. Further, the $20,000 Millcreek has contributed is not earmarked for Millcreek service. EMTA is a regional authority that's actually chartered and funded by the county primarily and the city primarily. So any contributions municipalities make do not guarantee service in that municipality. And if EMTA were to ever suffer budget cuts from the state, which they're looking at due to new state regulations, even if we maintain our $20,000 contribution, that does not guarantee service in Millcreek Township. So I just want to clear up some misconceptions that I think some officials from EMTA have been spreading about the dire situation of this funding source, which will not have these dire impacts that are being implied. Further, I want to stress, folks, that this is not some knee-jerk thing this board has done. We informed EMTA of our intentions back in January, and to our knowledge, from that time, they have yet to request additional funding from any other municipality or any other funding source, and we informed them of our intention to reduce if they hadn't actually requested other contribution from the municipalities. So I want to stress that while our entire board, and I believe we understand the concerns, we understand folks are legitimately scared of service being cut, those are not realities that are going to come to Millcreek Township based on this contribution. And I would say that if EMTA is going to cutting routes to the most populated areas, to the most visited destinations first, if they have a 1% reduction in their federal funds, and I think it's a very poorly managed operation if that's what they would do, is cut routes in Millcreek Township first due to a 1% reduction in operating revenues. So I just wanted to clarify those points.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter or anything else? Matt, would you hand him the pad there? You would, for the record, state your name, please.
Michael Fiorelli. I also work for Community Resources for Independence.
Yes.
And do want to talk about the whole EMTA thing, but briefly, I just wanted to ask that you continue the positive relationship you have with EMTA in terms of the discussions that you have, because as part of the independent living movement, two of the big things that I see as the program manager of the Center for Independent Living here at CRI are community integration, which buses definitely help with, and obtaining and maintaining well, education too, but employment. And without having the opportunity to get from point A to point B to get to work, that could be a detriment to the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which comes down from the feds. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else that would like to speak on this or any other matter?
Good evening. My name is Gary Bear, Violet Drive, and I've seen this gentleman drive down the street many times. He lives from Old Orchard. But I find it kind of insulting. The last time I was here, when the EMTA fellow was here, implying and using Millcreek Township as some sort of villain in this thing, about being unkind and not having a heart. At least that came across to me. For people in this situation, in these wheelchairs, or anyone that's handicapped, anyone that needs help. I don't find that to be the case at all from the supervisor of Millcreek Township, or from anyone in Millcreek Township working for Millcreek Township. There's always extending that hand. I'm all for what you're doing to try to get the fair balance of payments from everybody else to participate to make this viable. I'm sure that the EMTA which should be taken to task for using this kind of activity, putting these people in stress, which they do not require, do not need, to have their thinking that their freedoms, their abilities to communicate and integrate within society is going to be jeopardized because you, John, or you, John, or you, Jeff, are worried about $2,000 for that. That's an insult to me as a taxpayer and a member of Millcreek Township, and seeing the good works that's gone on in Millcreek Township. So if you would do that, I'd vote you out fast. Serious. And I bet everyone else would. I don't believe that's your intention. It's never been your intention. No. And this miscommunication and framing this situation in that tone, I find extremely insulting. And those folks should apologize to everyone that's here and everyone in the community that needs help. And you should ask for their forgiveness, because that's wrong. That's hurtful and spiteful, just for a few $1,000s, and not wanting to extend it to everyone that's receiving a benefit to help pitch in, to help more folks in all areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Is there anyone else that would like to speak about this or any other matter regarding township business?
I'm Connie Shue. I'm a Millcreek resident. Actually, I moved to Millcreek from Fairview because Millcreek has better transportation. And I'm going to be brief. I worked for Social Security Administration on the phone for over 20 years, and I had to be brief. If you have any idea how many calls we got there. Anyway, I'm a retired senior, and I'm also president of the National Federation of the Blind Erie County Chapter of Pennsylvania. Anyway, so I know there's a number of blind people, and oops, okay, sorry, and and the site center, of course, is in Millcreek. Anyway, I've used the bus and I've used the lift. As a senior, retired now, I now mostly use the lift, but I just think that we should be proud of the transportation system we have, and I think that, you know, I just hope that we can come to some resolution that's going to benefit everybody, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Dave Szymanowski, 823 Oregon Avenue. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I thank also all the residents of Millcreek. Thinking about this since the last time was here, I can understand why it can be upsetting that other jurisdictions don't pay. They don't pay their fair share. But I look at, if I have the figures right, okay, it was 20 or 22,000 that was requested, and Millcreek agreed on 2,000 or something like that. Is that about accurate?
About 2,500, yeah.
Okay, so it's about a 90% cut from, you pay 10% of the original figure. So I just want to look at it from a couple different angles. What if a business that's in Millcreek loses 90% of its workforce quickly? What if a manufacturing site we have in Millcreek loses 90%? What if all of a sudden they decide to cut your pay 90%? That is draconian in my view as far as the inequities between that. And I also thought of another one, but I'd probably get arrested. What if I didn't pay 90% of my taxes? But that's neither here nor there, because that's not going to happen. So I look at what is the value of this, of the bus routes, of the paratransit to all the residents of Millcreek. And to me, it's worth that 22, but if you come up with a reasonable adjustment that's agreeable to everyone, that sounds reasonable. I looked at it from another viewpoint. I took an $8.50 employee with a 25% fringe, and that comes out to about what that $22,000 is. So it's basically paying for one almost seasonal employee from what was mentioned earlier in that ballpark. So given Millcreek's entire budget, it seems like we're creating a huge firestorm over a small amount of money, and I guess, even though these other jurisdictions don't pay, I look at it, what is the value for us? And we talked about the leverage too. And lastly, I really think it's about the freedom of everyone and the dignity of the ill, the handicapped, the infirmed, the elderly, and just those down and out individuals or who just all of a sudden get sick and can't use their own transportation and maybe don't have family in the area. I just think it's worth it. And I want to look at it from that particular angle as opposed to what other jurisdictions pay or don't pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter or any other matter involving township business?
Chris Gerhardt, EMTA. It was positive to hear that there was positive and progressive
Well,
discussion.
Chris, let me correct myself here. Now, I may have been a bit overly optimistic with my comments, so if I am overly optimistic and sounding like Pollyanna, I'm going to apologize in advance now. I'm really not sure where this thing is going. We'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Any opening of a discussion is a positive, so I'll take that for what it's worth.
I believe that the first book of the day will be setting up a meeting with us and you and Mr. Peterson shortly.
Great.
So,
But
I just
go ahead.
Just let you know that we'll be meeting with you shortly, so you might want to keep if you'd like to keep your comments brief, we can discuss.
I am. But again, I ask you to reconsider the funding. I am passionate about paratransit. 30th of June is our hard date for PennDOT to submit our local support. We go beyond the 30 June date, hard date, the federal grant for fixed route operation dollars would be reduced. Somewhere in the range, our financial officer has estimated somewhere between $300,000 to $350,000, which will have an impact on ADA service, which would be a lift issue and a personal issue for me. So we would examine 1st of July, the new fiscal year for EMTA. Their routes will be examined by PennDOT regulations, as John Taylor of PennDOT spoke last Thursday in Bradford, PA, in a community health choice seminar that I attended. So the 16 routes, which cost EMTA $8 million in operating dollars, those will be impacted, as well as the 1 million annual riders. We will pursue, we have pursued, and we will continue to pursue the other municipalities, businesses, charities, to see where greater amounts of funding and sources can be attracted.
Mr. Guerra, I guess my question to you, and again,
Sure.
we notified you of our concerns in January. You need commitment letters, not necessarily cash on hand.
You had it budgeted, you had it allocated, you had it written in your...
I'm asking, have you even sent letters to any other municipality
Yes.
requesting funding?
After we had met with you, we had met with Harbor Creek. They increased their
No, I'm
funding.
asking for the other municipalities that haven't contributed. Have you actually solicited to other municipalities yet to make
Discussions
contributions?
have occurred. They will, and a whole new round, starting now, so. And there's interest. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from citizens to be heard on this matter or any other matter involving township business? Hello. If you would state your name for the record, and there's a sheet to sign your name there too, please. Can you do that, or?
Yes, Helminski, and I'm speaking to you as the E&D Chair of Paratransit, which stands for Elderly and Disabled for Erie County of Paratransit. So I applaud you for reconsidering, looking at your budget again, and working positively with the EMTA staff. I take the bus even though I don't live. I'm on the other side of the roundabout. But I have family and friends that live in Millcreek, and I know how important it is for people with disabilities to maintain their employment and their independence. So if their transportation goes away, they have to stop working. So if they live and work in Millcreek, that's tax dollars you're going to not see anymore. So please heed everything these wonderful people are saying here. And please look at businesses that are out in Edinburgh, like Edinburgh University, who contributes to the paratransit and the fixed route, and businesses that are in Fairview who contribute. And yes, we are reaching out to other municipalities and we're working with them. So I applaud you. I'm taking a positive outlook here that we can come to some type of agreement for the elderly and disabled that I have to look all over Erie County for. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and plus I did the math. And if you do the math, I believe it comes down to roughly only 43 cents per person
Yeah.
to contribute.
How much
to
is it
make
for
up-
how much is it for the other municipalities? Do the math on that.
We're working
No,
on
I'm
Fairview.
being very serious. I
No,
don't mean that as a
talking
quip.
about I'm talking about the businesses that contribute.
Yeah.
And yes, we are working on other
Yeah,
municipalities.
and I don't mean that as a quip, but it's a sincere question.
And I'm doing
that's
a
the principle,
sincere,
yeah.
honest answer to you too. We are working on the problem, John. We are.
Excellent.
Mr. Morgan, thank you.
How do,
Yes, sir.
I know you're a strong advocate as well for the new policies going in place at the state, or you're an advocate against the new policies at the state. Would you mind briefing the board on those issues, if you'd like? I know we had some concerns that we discussed. Would you like to address those
What's
this evening?
the
The changes to paratransit funding in the state.
MATP?
Yes.
I hesitate going there because I don't want to throw more confusion into the pot. But if you insist, I will try to do it.
Well, I think it's a very important issue.
Okay. MATP stands for non-emergency transportation for people, especially for the elderly and disabled. Soon I'm going to be 65, so I will qualify for that paratransit rides for my doctors and medical appointments. What's happening right now is there is a Senate Bill 390 that's been introduced to stop and study what's already made into law in Act 40. And there is a House version that's been introduced, 986, to stop and study it. Unfortunately, these bills are not getting out of committees. So I am flying to Harrisburg to work the Hill on this issue. I went to AAA, booked my flight, so I fly out June 10th, and I fly back on the 12th, and 4 other people are going to join me working the Hill hard on this to make sure the legislators understand that what they thought would give Department of Human Services, DHS, a $15 million drawdown to make our state budget balance is not in reality not even $13 million. And in reality, what's going to happen to our counties and our municipalities is they're going to expand or spend approximately $50 to $60 million to make up the deficit. That means if we can't stop MAT from happening, our local e-board is going to lose 1/3 of their funding. The e-board voted unanimously to study it and to support both bills. The county voted unanimously to stop this and do a study. The first date they're going to issue brokers is July 1st. That's why it's important that I book a flight to fly to Harrisburg to work on this issue. That's one of the two issues that's very important I'm going to work on. The other is closure of order, selection of OBR. But you see there's a domino effect that's going to happen if we don't stop and study or put the brakes on the MATP, because it'll affect a third of our local budget, which will affect our bus routes, which we'll have to go back to PennDOT and say we have to increase fares for our bus routes, which will increase the fares for ADA and PWD. It may even have us shrink in our bus routes. So you see, it's kind of all intertwined here. That's why I applaud you for taking a breath and trying to work it out with CRI, Voices for Independence, the E-Board, the E-Staff, as we're reaching out to other municipalities. So it's really an urgent cry for rally the forces for me.
Well, and the reason I asked you to explain that, Pascal, so my colleagues could hear about the issue, and actually the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization,
right.
Millcreek Township and the City of Corey sponsored a resolution at the MPO in opposition to these changes. Unfortunately, that resolution was tabled at the behest of EMTA, which was surprising to us. So there was a lengthy discussion at the MPO in which the City of Erie and Fairview representatives indicated that EMTA was not in favor of us passing a resolution informing our opposition to this policy. So I'm very, just adds to the kind of the confusion of what's going on.
You know, I have to correct you there. They were not opposed to it.
I'm sorry, they did not state their endorsement of it.
Well, no, not exactly, because I repeatedly said after the meeting to you and the person, I can't remember the young man's name from Wesleyville, that Chris Carhart stated several times that the board voted unanimously to support both bills. Senate Bill 390 and House Bill.
That's not what was communicated at the MPO meeting. So that's the unfortunate thing. So
okay,
we actually voted against tabling that issue, and the board unanimously, unfortunately, the MPO voted to table the issue.
I know, unfortunately, that's what happened. But then I know that I did get an apology from the young man from Wesleyville, and so did several other people. And I'm taking it upon myself to encourage everybody who uses paratransit to please talk to your state reps, talk to your state senators, and go to the governor's office. The governor really needs to see the users of MA and to see how terribly it's going to affect them. What I found out after the meeting, John and other people here, is that if and when the brokers are successful taking over, that they are going to hire taxi cabs, Ubers, and Lyft drivers with the Y in it, not our Lyft buses. And they don't have to have all the certifications that our Lyft drivers have to have, which is a page worth of certifications. If your doctor's appointment or your doctor's visit or your test runs after 6 p.m., then you're left there. And I have to remind everybody that Erie County does not have any accessible taxi cabs, Ubers, or Lyfts with a Y in it. So that's why I applaud everybody for keeping an open mind and trying to communicate here, and know that we are trying to work with other municipalities. So everybody's on the same page. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Come on, girl.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak regarding this or any other matter before the board? Okay. Matt, would you be kind enough to write her name there? What is your name again, please?
My name is Amy Chikocki, C-I-C-H-O-C-K-I. I come before you, the supervisors again. I am not only a Millcreek Township resident, but I work at Voices for Independence, and I serve as their transportation liaison. So everything that you guys have heard affects not only me, but the consumers that I serve. I would like to personally thank those of you that have shadowed me for the day, to spend the day to see what it's like at our center. Because of paratransit, consumers are able to come to our center and have a free understanding and do activities and such things. But without paratransit and the cuts being made in Millcreek, we may not be able to provide that service. I want to help you guys understand what it's like to work, not only work at a Center for Independent Living, but live having to use the lift or bus to get to the consumers' houses that you need to get to. So I'm asking you again and I applaud you for having cool heads to think about your decision. But I'm asking you, as we are approaching this very quickly, and it's scary to me. Here's why. What am I gonna tell my coworkers? What am I gonna tell the consumers we serve? Where do we go from there? So I'm asking you, please, I'll do the same offer, a little bit different as I did the last time. I am open to having a discussion with any one of you. You can spend a couple hours a day, half an hour, whatever it takes to see what I do and go through on a daily basis, answering those questions of what's going to happen, what is the next step, what do I need to do, those types of things. Those are types of things that I hear about because people with disabilities are often afraid to come up and speak in a public setting like this. That is why Voices for Independence has designated a transportation liaison of someone who uses Lyft and bus services to help with things such as this issue right now. So I'm asking you to please reach out to me, and anything I can do to help, please let me know. I'd be happy to give you my card, whatever needs to happen. Let's try to make it happen. We're here to help you. We're not here to harm you or point the fingers, but let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Do you have any questions?
Let me. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in regard to this matter or any other matter of township business? Second call. Anyone else would like to speak? Being none, I'll call for adjournment of the meeting at 8:44.
So moved.
Second?
I will second. Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.